seen entitlement in action? If you haven't, allow me to show you. This video was shot on board an Indigo flight from Istanbul to Delhi. Somewhere along the flight attendant got into an altercation with a passenger. It has something to do with the food he was served as per the airline. Now, what followed was a full-blown shouting match. The passenger called the flight attendant a servant, to which she responded saying she was an employee and not a servant. She is heard repeatedly telling the passenger to calm down and speak softly, but no luck. The man kept raising his voice and shouting at the flight attendant. Now, we don't know the specific reason behind the fight, but Indigo has released a statement on the issue saying that the fight was related to meals chosen by the passenger. On social media, people speculated on what could have triggered the fight. They took sides in the shouting contest. Some users said the passenger is entitled to proper service on board the flight. Others said he should have maintained minimum decency. But remember, he's talking to another human being at her workplace. What is this attitude and where is this coming from? We'll play out that entire conversation for you. Listen in.
Pointing finger on me and yelling on me. My crew is crying because of you. Please try to understand there's a guard, they're accounted, means uplifted. We can only serve what you're...
Why are you yelling?
Because you are yelling on us.
Excuse me, please.
No, I am so sorry, sir, but you cannot talk to the crew like that. I am peacefully listening to you with all due respect, but you have to respect the crew as well.
Yes, when I'm disrespecting you.
Then why are you yelling on me, pointing me like that?
You are yelling me on. Why are you yelling?
I was peaceful.
Shut up.
You shut up. I'm sorry, you cannot talk to me like that. I'm also an employee here. Yes, I'm an employee. I'm not your servant. I am an employee. I am not your servant. Pointing.
Let me go across to Madhav, who's joining us for more. Madhav, do we know what exactly caused that altercation on board, and what is the airline saying?
The passenger can't be completely absorbed, is seen, abusing the staff who also lose their cool in this entire video. In the run-up to that, the events that happened are not entirely clear, though the airline through its statement has indicated that it was related to the choice of meal that the passenger had in fact indicated online before boarding the flight, and it's that booking when he was served, he wanted to change at the last minute, which is not possible logistically due to multiple reasons. But the larger question is this, that the tweets on social media are referring to a bigger malaise. Certainly passengers who are irritated or they need to control themselves while they speak cannot be seen particularly speaking to ladies in the manner that they do or is being seen in this particular video, but also from the point of view of those who are providing these services also have to restrain themselves.
All right, Ajay Attorney joining me on the show. I'm also going to be speaking in a bit with Neetu Shukla, the former in-flight service director for Kingfisher Airlines, and Ajay, of course, the editor of livefromalounge.com. Ajay, just an embarrassing situation to watch. I'm sure it was terrible for all the other passengers over there as well. Is there any world or any situation in which this passenger's behavior is justified?
I don't think so, Tamanna. The way this passenger behaved was really not justified. I think it was uncalled for, and I think, it was really not justified for the passenger to be, in Indian English, throw his weight around on the cabin crew as if something would change. The outcome clearly did not change, but I'm guessing if he was really in the wrong, he perhaps gets himself on a no-fly list now.
Can that happen? Should that happen? Two things. Should this passenger be put on a no-fly list? He did apologize later, but is that enough? And will Indigo back their employee, this flight attendant who's saying my crew is already crying because of you?
See, we, like you and me both, Conquer, we don't know the circumstances that led up to this. We only seen this clip roll since where this cabin crew has stepped in clearly to protect one of her other team members. My reading of the situation is that she was obviously trying to protect somebody because if you see she's lying down, she's laying low to try and talk to the passenger, which in my interpretation of all these years of traveling and talking to airlines has been that they try to give respect to the passenger. Having said that, the passenger did not back off. The passenger yelled, and the Indigo flight crew also yelled back. Uh, for what will happen to the passenger, we don't know. We need the full information, and obviously, Indigo needs to take a call on that after reviewing all the information they have. Uh, with respect to the cabin crew, I really hope the cabin crew does not get into more trouble, any trouble because of this, because from the looks of it, she was just standing up for her colleague. And yeah, well, she seemed to be doing the right thing
No, no,
in the moment.
So the customer is always supposed to be king. Neetu Shukla is joining me now. And Neetu Shukla, I'm sure you've got the right perspective on this. You have, I'm sure, dealt with or heard of colleagues dealing with these kind of situations. What would you have done?
So I think most passengers fail to understand that the role of a flight attendant basically started with the need of a nurse on board an aircraft. So the earlier flight attendants were nurses, and then they realized they needed a flight attendant basically to save passengers in case of an emergency. So a cabin crew is somebody who's going to actually save you if there is an emergency. The services come as a peripheral. But unfortunately, what people see mostly is the service aspect of a flight attendant, because fortunately, we don't have that many emergencies, whether it be medical or a safety-related emergency. That being said, cabin crew are trained and ingrained and selected based on their calm, their composure, and the way they carry themselves. Of course, there's very intensive training about how they should be behaving too. So I don't think that the training of the Indigo crew would be lacking in any way. Now, when we hear this entire episode, even though we are not privy to the whole conversation, the crew is already mentioning about another crew of hers crying. And as rightly said before, crew generally sit down and talk to passengers just to make them comfortable and don't talk to them while looking down at them. This is to be at eye level with the customer so that you don't feel threatened or, in any way being spoken to in a bad way. She was doing all the right things, and kudos to the girl for standing up for herself. I think it's very important to draw that line where people understand that you cannot speak to any human being at their place of work the way this man has spoken to this girl. For him to actually turn around and say, "You are a servant," is very shocking.
I want to
So,
play it out again. I want to play it out again because, this has divided people on the internet. Some are saying, why did she say, you shut up? She should not have answered back. Because the customer is always right. Hold your cool. I'll come back to you, Neetu. Let me play it out again. I want to play that clip out again in its entirety. Let's listen in.
Pointing finger on me and yelling on me. My crew is crying because of you. Please try to understand there's a card, there are counted, means uplifted. We can only serve what you're
Why are you yelling?
Because you are yelling on us.
Excuse me, please.
No, I am so sorry, sir, but you cannot talk to the crew like that. I am peacefully listening to you with all due respect, but you have to respect the crew as well.
Yes, when I'm disrespecting you.
Then why are you yelling on me, pointing me like that?
You are yelling me on. Why are you yelling?
I was peaceful.
Shut up.
You shut up. I'm sorry, you cannot talk to me like that. I'm also an employee here. Yes, I'm an employee. I'm not your servant. I am an employee. I am not your servant.
All right, Neetu Shukla. So, she has also lost her cool. There is no doubt about it. That
Yes,
she has lost her cool.
But, true. But if you hear a conversation, she said that the passenger had already brought one of her crew to tears. And whether you come with a service attitude or whether you don't come with a service attitude, I believe that standing up for your self-respect beyond a point is called for, and it should be done. There should be an end to boorish behavior. And I believe if he's brought one crew to tears and still she sat down on her haunches and she was talking nicely to him and he still continued to be demanding and unreasonable, a cabin crew at the end of the day is a human. She's just one of us, right? So if you've held your cool for that long, it's okay if you react at some point of time. I think what really needs to be understood by some of the passengers is that when you buy that flight ticket, you are just buying your journey from one point to the other. You are not buying the people who work there. You need to talk to people with respect, whatever the situation. So if she reacted after being pushed beyond a point, I would give it up as a human element. And I think that's justified because all of us do face that human element at some point or the other. So I think standing up for yourself when treated in that manner, up to the point where you've broken down one crew to tears, and then you're screaming at another one, I understand if that happens. We all are human and we should appreciate that cabin crew
Have you
are
ever faced
human
something
too.
like that, Ms. Shukla? Have you ever faced a situation like this?
I have. I've fortunately not lost my cool. But then there are times where, unfortunately, I've had to hand over passengers to the cops at the airport. Without yelling or screaming, I hand them over to the cops at the airport. I've done it on a couple of occasions. There was this one time when this passenger put his child to sleep on the floor because his daughter wanted to sleep. And I told him that it's against safety, there's turbulence, you can't endanger the life of your daughter. And he continued to do that. So because he was hampering the life of another passenger, even though it was his own daughter, we had to take action. There was another time when a passenger elbowed one of my crew intentionally, a couple of times. When I warned him, he continued to do that. So he had to be handed over to the cops. So I would never bother screaming and shouting at a passenger again. But I guess that comes with experience and that comes with what preceded that event. Um, I, I mean, I wouldn't do that, but I understand if somebody else is human enough to do that.
So the chatter on social media, and of course we'll have to wait for the airline to give us more details, is that a lot of the passengers didn't realize that because this is an LCC, a low-cost carrier, they have to book their meals in advance.
Correct.
And when they
Correct.
saw some people being served meals and the others weren't, some were upset about it. And then the crew had to handle it. Ajay, do you think that the airline will stand by the employee in this case, and shouldn't they? Should this gentleman be put on a no-fly list?
Well, Tamanna, first and foremost, two things before we get to that. What Neetu's saying is absolutely correct, and I really support the cabin crew with what they did. Second, the airline needs to set a precedent here with respect to how, things should go on in the future. In this case, see, I've seen a lot of cabin crew in India and abroad being stern with employees, with passengers when they're not being able to get across to the passenger in either, a normal, sweet manner. They sometimes are stern, and then the passengers understand and they kind of withdraw from whatever hampering behavior that they were doing. In this case, obviously, it went a little over the top or a lot over the top. So I hope Indigo really stands by its employees. Remember, in the age of smartphones, everyone is being watched every point of time. But that does not mean, like Neetu said, cabin crew are human as well. I remember a few years back, there was somebody else who put out a social media post of, I think, a Vistara cabin crew sleeping at the, catching a nap at the airport. And somebody said it's a bad image for the airline. And the airline CCO basically stepped in and said on social media that first, it was wrong to put out a picture of a sleeping cabin crew on social media without a permission in the first place. So in that case, the airline stood for the employee. In many cases, recently, even, Indigo has recently stood for their employees. I think they should kind of stand up for this one as well. This was hopefully justified. And I really hope that Indigo sets an example here by kind of doing the right thing.
Well, Indigo should do the right thing, but the other lesson from the story is not only in the context of passengers and flight attendants and cabin crew. It's the attitude we sometimes have, some people have, towards those who serve them. They're just doing their job. No one is your servant. We only have public servants who are elected to do their job. Do remember that. Well, thank you to all of you for joining us on this show today. I want to